Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to play the most broken champion in Wild Rift. Probably one of the most broken champions ever. Like literally, it's absurd how broken Warwick is right now. There's so many builds that I want to talk to you about, a few different builds, both in top lane and jungle. We're going to be playing top lane in this video, but I'll probably have a jungle video in the future, and I'm going to go over the jungle build with you as well. So starting off with the top lane build, typically Grasp of the Undying is going to be a good rune for harder matchups, or matchups that aren't as free, and Empowerment's going to be the better rune otherwise. Brutal, Giant Slayer, Alacrity, and Second Wind. You can switch Second Wind to Bone Plating into more burst-based champions, but either of those are good. And then for the build, you're going to always start off with Trinity Force. You might want to rush Boots, again, if it's a harder matchup. You can rush Steel Caps or Mercury Treads, depending on the damage type of the enemy. But then you're going to go for Trinity Force, and then if you're just looking for pure damage, you'll go Terminus second. But if you want a bit of defense as well, say that you're laning an AP champion, then you'll go for Wit's End. Say you're laning an AD champion, you wanted defense, you could switch that to Death Dance. Then usually Riftmaker is going to be good, especially if they start building armor, because if they're building armor, then the Riftmaker is going to switch your damage up. But if they keep building, like, MR or something, or you just want additional AD, you can go for Terminus where Riftmaker is, and then put Blade of the Rune King here instead, especially like in the Heartsteel champions. You can go Spear Visage late for the extra healing. You can go a lot of tank items as well. Like you could even just, if you want to, you can go for Trinity Force, then whatever boots match the damage type of your laner, then whatever resistance item you need, whether it's like Wit's End or Death Dance for damage. And then after that, you can build straight tank if you fall behind, or if you just know that you need engage. So you could go for like Twin Guard, Spear Visage, Randuin's or Sterix, just all these different items. So there's so much item variety in the top lane build, but this would be kind of a general build. And then again, you could switch it up with all those situations that we spoke about. Then going on to jungle build. So this build is going to be the AD jungle build, where you're going for Gluttonous Greaves for the additional damage. You could go defensive boots if you like, they're all one damage type. Then Trinity, Terminus, Wit's End, Riftmaker, Blade of the Rune King. So it's pretty similar to the top lane build I showed you, but a bit more damage focused because you are playing in the jungle. So you're going to go Sudden Impact instead of, more laning runes, and Empowerment again, because you don't really need it for the lane. And then, these runes as well. You could also go for Lethal Tempo, which is what we'll do in the AP build, as you can see here. So this is the one-shot AP build, probably the best jungle build overall for Warwick right now, which is going to be Mana Boots, Terminus, Nashers, Lichbane, Deathcap, and Soul Stealer. This is going to be really, really solid on him in pretty much every game, and these runes as well with Gathering Storm, Zombie Ward, and Powered Attack. Sudden Impact and Lethal Tempo, I mean, you're going to be one-shotting people. Some people do prefer Ghost instead of Flash. I prefer Flash. That's kind of up to you. But that's a general build thing. I know there's a lot. This champion has, it can literally build AP, tank, AD, mixed damage. It can build like everything. So it's a little bit difficult to understand all the builds. So you can just take screenshots of those general builds I showed you guys, and those will also work out really nice for you. So now let's get right into the gameplay. Okay guys, so going right into the lane, we're just going to explain some of the things that really are important for lane phase on Warwick. The first one here, you can see I'm going armor boots because Darius, he does have potential to all in me, so I prefer the armor boots to make sure I'm a bit tankier to start off. And then you're going to watch how I'm just going to trade really aggressively. So when you have a healing ability at level 1 on lane, typically you want to let the enemy hit you, and then you want to use your healing ability afterwards, because then you get additional healing. So watch how I'm going to let him hit me, and then I'll use my first ability to get that additional healing. And so you might think, well, Talon, you lost this trade. He has more health than you. But because I'm Warwick, I actually didn't lose this trade, because I can permanently sustain like this. You see how, again, I'm playing around my Grasp cooldown, and I'm pretty much using my first ability every time that he has, or that I have Grasp up. And so you can see those insane Grasp procs that I get. And the real goal is to get someone to 50% HP, because the way that Warwick's second ability works, the passive, once someone is below 50% HP, you get extra movement speed towards them, and I think it's attack speed as well. And so you're just basically way stronger whenever someone is below half health, and you get additional healing on your passive when you are below half health. So you really want to be trading super aggressive early in the lane. Getting both people to half health is really your goal, and then finding all-in angles after that. And you can constantly sustain off the wave like you see me doing here. And then you see I play around my level diff there. So even though he hooks me in, I'm actually happy with it, because then I can get an additional trade on him. I can get that Grasp proc again. You can just see how much damage we do early in the lane. Typically, you're going to be wanting to stack a wave, and usually when you're going to hit about level 4, he's going to be level 3 in most matchups, because you literally win almost every matchup, and you're going to be able to find all-in angles. I've probably played about 10 to 15 Warwick top lane games, and I'm pretty sure I first blooded in almost every single one of them. barring a couple. Like, this champion literally is just such a broken laner. It's so hard to lose lane unless you get spam ganked. And even if you get spam ganked, you still have really good, you know, outplay potential. So you saw there, we get a really easy all-in angle. And that's really what you can do in Warwick. You can find all of these all-in angles. Now we take our recall and we have a very strong point hitting steel caps and as well hitting long swords. So we're just going to be extremely strong and continuing to trade really aggressively here now that that happened. And the great thing about Warwick, he's very versatile with builds, as we spoke about in the build portion. So if you fall behind, you can still be a decent engaged champion and start going for a tankier route. So playing really overly aggressive is super important. You can see I proc my W here so that I can get these, I can spot him here, and then I just go straight onto him because I know I have the level advantage. So we get him half health. And even though the Rengar's here, I'm pretty confident that I can outplay with my level advantage. And because Darius is not level 5, I don't care that he got stacks onto me. And so we're able to find a potential all-in angle here, and then we see our teammate coming, so we end up going on to him. Another important thing I've been learning Warwick, and obviously I wasn't very good at him, you know, when I was first learning it. So make sure you're always clicking your third ability before you go on people when you can, because if you click your third ability right before you go on people, whether it's before you ult on them or before you dash onto them with your first ability, you can then you get the damage reduction, and then you can fear them once you go behind them, fear them back into your team. Very good engage in general, just very, very strong there. And then here we got the Scorpion. We're letting it slow push so that we can still freeze a lot on him and kind of just pressure him. It's important to try to keep the wave in a state like this when you can. And then once you start trading with him more aggressively and like you win a couple trades because your champion wins pretty much every trade, then you start to get the lane to start slow pushing into the enemy and eventually finding a dive angle on them. That's usually going to be the goal there. And so you see here, because we're up 2 levels, we're trading really aggressively. And again, I'm happy with this trade because I get him low health and I can just sustain off the wave. Like, my healing is absurd. So a losing trade is a winning trade is a winning trade, an even trade is a winning trade. Everything is a winning trade on Warwick, so trade as much as you possibly can, because you literally can't lose unless you get all in. You can see here that we find the all-in angle on him. After getting all that damage on him, we knew he didn't have flash because the Morgana ganked earlier, and we find another all-in. And so because we find the all-in, we're going to start pushing the wave and then potentially looking for a recall to get even stronger with the Trinity Force. With the components, obviously we're not going to hit full Trinity Force. But you also can stay in lane really long and be really greedy on Warwick, which is another great thing. Like, you have a decent enough mana, you're not going to run out of mana too quickly, and you have that sustain, so it's just really good. And then here is going to be something that you can do on Warwick that you can't do on other champions, and that is gank from top lane. You see how everyone's low here? I'm going to be able to get back with the Hexgate pretty fast to top, to the Darius if I want to. So I'm going to look to see if I can possibly get a shutdown on their 4-0 Karma here, and that's really going to be my goal. And you can do this going to mid lane, going to anywhere. Once someone's below half health, you're going to be able to find a lot of good kills on them, and then here we get the Karma because of that. And even if it didn't work out, it wouldn't have been the end of the world, but you could just have so much impact on so many lanes. That's really kind of the way you want to be playing Warwick. You're going to win your lane most of the time if you play properly because of how strong of a laner he is. And you'll use that advantage to start making plays on other parts of the map and then just coming back to cover your lane. You're really like a side lane champion who you need to think of yourself as like someone who's just constantly going to be moving around the map, who's going to be drawing people to you and trying to create opportunities to pick the enemy. You're not a good team fighter straight up, so you need to, again, be drawing people to you in different scenarios, finding these 1v1 angles or finding these picks on low health people, playing around side lanes, kind of pushing stuff like that. Because my main issue originally when I was learning Warwick was not the lane phase. I was winning lane even on my first game of Warwick. My first 2 games I ever played Warwick, I first blooded in both of them. But the issue was I couldn't really carry after that lane. And that was because I couldn't find impact, because you're not necessarily the strongest split pushing side lane champion later in the game. So you need to go for these picks like here, for example. Instead of going straight to bot lane like you would on most champions, I go to the mid lane to find that pick onto the Ziggs there, because I know that I can just come back really fast with my second ability and then look for the trade on Darius. And even if I might lose out on that wave, I'm more focused on really getting as much pressure through stuff like this. You see how we kite him here, and then because we have the flash, we can just flash Q on him and get another easy kill. So you're playing around kills and like really trying to get a lot of picks in the lane, even if you give up a little bit of efficiency sometimes in your farm. Obviously you don't want to give up an entire turret. You can see I still come back to defend my turret, but you really want to be looking for these picks as much as possible, just using your absurd sustain to really like just have so much mobility, draw people all over to you. and then find potential picks once people do get lower health. Like, let your team a lot of times get them low health. You don't need to rush to a fight. And then the nice thing too, when someone gets low far away from you, you get that passive so you can start running really fast, even here where like the people who are low are in the top lane, but I still get my passive up, and then it makes it really easy to go for a kill here. Unfortunately, I did not hit my Q onto the Zig, so he survived, but still we get a lot of pressure here, draw them off, and then we can see the blood trails so we can kind of see where the enemy are, which is a really nice thing about the passive. I mean, it's so easy to catch people who are low because obviously the second ability passive, you can see that little like trail, the red trail going to the Zigs. That's because he's below 50% HP, and so I can find them anywhere on the map when they're below 50% HP. And your second ability, it makes it so that you get to just see someone for a little bit who's any percent HP, like the closest person to you, you will see when you click your second ability. That can be really nice for avoiding ganks as well, because if you're not sure where someone is and you're pushing a turret, you click your second ability, and now you'll find the closest person to you, so you know whether or not you're going to get ganked. You see there, we kite out the Darius, and then we just use the ult to all in him. That's a really nice thing too. When someone's below 50% HP, that movement speed bonus you get from your second ability passive allows you to kite out things like a Darius third ability, where I was able to bait that because of how fast I was, scare him, and then go all in on him as well. And then here you're going to see I click my second ability to see if anyone's going to gank me, and then I see nobody's close to me. Everyone's in mid lane, which we could have just seen on the map obviously because 2 people are dead. But either way, we're able to get this entire turret. And then for the build now, we're going to go for Bramble Vest because anti-healing is important into Darius, and he is an AD champion, and Rengar also heals and is AD. Then we're going to go for Terminus for the overall damage. It's going to be really good for the laning damage overall in this game. And then after that, we're going for Wit's End, because later on in the game, we're going to start fighting Karma and Ziggs more often, the champions with AP, so the Wit's End later on is going to be good. And then Spirit Visage last gives us additional armor. I think I said AP, I meant magic resistance, sorry, for the Wit's End, as well as for Spirit Visage. And so that's going to help us later in the game. And the additional healing from Spirit Visage makes Spirit Visage always a good like last item or fourth item to go. And so again here, notice how I'm hovering mid, and then I look for a pick on mid lane rather than going straight to bot lane. Unfortunately, I do kind of make a mistake by flashing too far forward there, but you can see the limits on this champion with the damage reduction on your third ability and the healing on your first ability. You can make those over aggressive plays. I really recommend testing your limits and sometimes, you know, making these plays which might seem a bit dumb or a bit over aggressive, because that's how you're going to learn the limits of this champion, is through really over aggression, everything like that. And even though Warwick is absurdly broken right now, I truly think he's a champion who will be pretty strong for a while, even if he does get nerfed, because his lane phase especially is just so broken that you can always find advantages there. And then he's just got really good like assassin late game, who can also become a pseudo tank if you do build a couple of tank items. So again here, I push out my wave, then I rotate to the dragon, waiting for someone to potentially get low health and pick them off. I'm really not, when I'm fed, I'm not really engaging too often. I'm kind of letting my team do more of that, right? And like when I'm behind, a lot of times I've had games where I am behind on Warwick or even gold and not as useful later on in the game. And in those situations, I'll just engage for my carries or try to protect them. But in a situation like this, I'll let my team make the engage first, and then I'll go on to whoever is kind of low health. So here we get the Rengar. Unfortunately, he, you know, pops off on our team there, and then the Volibear got separated and died there. So now I'm seeing if maybe I can find a pick on someone. But, you know, I'm soon going to realize, okay, I can't really do that. Let me just cover the bot lane and cut our losses here. And so because the fights are going kind of poorly, I'm really kind of noticing at this point I need to play through side lanes, get a potential pick, get myself really strong, and then maybe be able to carry after that. But playing straight up team fights we kind of saw is probably not going to work out the best. So we're most likely not going to try to do more of those unless, you know, we see a really good angle for a fight. So I'm just going bot lane here again, cutting my losses, trying to get some gold, and then I'll recall for my Terminus, because that will get me very, very strong. Another thing to note, by the way, if you do your dash on your first ability, which like if you drag it, it'll dash. If you dash and you last hit a minion, it reduces the cooldown of your first ability. But if you just, you tap it and you just straight up like, you know, fight someone with it, then you will not get the cooldown reduction. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And then here you're going to see again, really good at getting potential picks in the side lanes. Whenever my teammate's going in, I can always look for potential picks here. We go on to the Ziggs there, make sure to click our third ability when we go in, and we get an easy pick. We get the fear onto Caitlyn, and we just get a really nice pick here. And then because I'm greedy, I decide to walk forward, but somehow I don't die. And again, this champion is going to make it out on 1 HP a lot because of your healing, because of your third ability, and just being, you know, really aggressive. Even if I died there, we still would have killed 4 people, still would have been really good. And then you could just look, you could go to the side lane and sustain like crazy here. I mean, it's just insane, the healing. And this is even the AD build, you know, or the mixed damage build. The AP build pretty much heals you to full, with 1 Q. It's pretty absurd. And so then we're just going to try to farm some of their jungle here until the enemy show up. And then we'll just run away. Again, just, you know, playing around those side lane, kind of that side lane pressure. Always just trying to find these 1v1 angles, because that's really where your champion excels. If you're able to get a lead early game and then kind of, you know, fight people on sides or pick off squishy champions, you're going to be really happy overall. And just using your sustain to make really aggressive trades and then still be fine. I'm going to hit my first or second ability here to see if I can go on the Darius. But we don't really see an angle, so then I just decide, okay, let me just push and then look for a roam potentially. Because again, your mobility is your biggest strength as Warwick. Well, that and your absurd sustain and absurd damage. So I guess you have a lot of strengths. But one of your biggest strengths is definitely the mobility, because you can just kind of move all around the map. Always looking for something to happen, even if your team, you know, they're fighting on the opposite side of the map. You can see how quick I can just move. I hit my second ability to see if I can find anyone. And then because I see a fight break out, even though I start hitting mid, now I know, like, okay, I can find a really nice angle to go behind them here, so I'm waiting for my team to kind of be in a good position. I see the blood trail onto the Caitlyn here, so that's a nice thing too. Again, you can see where the enemy are even when you don't see them on the map. That's why I knew I could ult onto the Caitlyn there. And then we're going to go onto the Karma as well, and because she's half health, I'm able to run at her really hard, really fast, and then we kill her, go for the Baron now. And at this point, the game's looking really clean. But closing out games, you're definitely going to find is going to be the harder, you know, thing about Warwick. It's not really getting a lead that's difficult. It's closing the games out, because he is, you know, he's the best early to mid game jungler and top laner by far. But there are definitely champions who outscale him. He's still the best champion in the game, but his scaling is the one weakness as a champion. And so you're going to have to kind of play a lot more through sides, playing around those picks. Not really, you know, getting too aggressive, because it's really easy to int on Warwick. QSS, by the way, best enchant for him for that reason. And then look here, my blood trail, I'm able to just spot the Rengar even though he's invisible, and that's going to be really cool. And then we end up just getting an easy pick on him. But yeah, just playing around these picks, like for example, you know, when the Rengar gets caught, making sure that you just chase him across the entire map and make him hate his life. Like, that's really kind of the goal of the champion, and understanding that is going to be kind of the biggest thing for you guys. Again, that's something I had to figure out by losing a few games, even when I would be really fed. Like, I had a jungle game, I was like 14, you know, kills and 4 deaths or something like that, but I ended up dying a couple times because I just, you know, the limits are really high, and so you kind of have to test these types of things, and sometimes it's going to lead to you throwing a game potentially. And then here again, when you're on side lane, your third ability allows you to tank so much. You're, you know, able to run away and sustain pretty easily, and then we're able to end up kiting them into our team, killing the Darius, and now looking to pressure the turrets afterwards. So that's just kind of the main thing. Like, don't be afraid to die on this champion every once in a while. You're going to make mistakes on him. Perfectly fine. Much more important thing is just, you know, making sure that you're able to kind of play around your limits, outplay people like this. And at this point now, we're just looking for a potential low health champ here. I did not think I'm going to get Stormrazor slowed. I didn't think about Stormrazor slow, and so I end up dying here. Otherwise, I would have been able to kill Ziggs, and I'm pretty sure Caitlyn as well. But the Stormrazor slow, obviously I should have thought about that. I kind of forgot about that. And then we die under a turret. And, you know, not a good thing by me, not a good play, but not the end of the world. That type of stuff's going to happen sometimes when you're really trying to test your limits and play really aggressive. And so that's kind of really what I want to reiterate to you guys. When you are learning a new champion, when you're trying to get better at playing some of these broken champions, because they're so broken, they're going to have really absurd limits where you can do really crazy stuff with them. And that means that you got to not be afraid to make a couple mistakes in order to find, you know, those kind of like break points and those limits. Because you know, the way that I kind of learned Warwick, for example, I watched like a 50-minute video of a Warwick, you know, he was like a Warwick main playing Warwick with the new buffs from China, I think it was the server. And just watching the things he could do, you know, it was absurd, like what he knew his champion could do. And so that really made me like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm not scared, because if I want to get to that point, to that level of gameplay, I've got to be, you know, willing to go in on 3 people sometimes and see what my champion can do. Like here, we ult on the Rengar. I think I should have probably waited a bit longer to kind of ult in until my volley was back up, and then made a play then. So I think I was a bit too aggressive too early. But because you do get people like low health, like from a fight like that, now you have the passive up, and you can just run around so fast, kind of scaring everyone off. So it's still not a bad thing to just kind of get those early ults on people and get out when they're half health, because then you can just start, you know, being super fast. So that's really the main goal too, is trying to get people half health. Because once they're half health, your champ's OP. Before they're half health, you're not the strongest champ ever. But once they're half health, I mean, you can see here, just the amount of mobility I have. I can just run onto them. My ult already comes back in the fight. We're able to go onto the Ziggs as well. Shout out to Volibear for the nice double kill there. And at this point now, we just go to the dragon. I can potentially zone them off so that we can go for Baron afterwards. And it's pretty straightforward from here, I do believe. So I'm just going to skip forward a little bit. You know, we get the Baron here. Nothing really much to see there. Recall for our 4th item. And now I'm on 4 items before the Elder Dragon, which is really solid for sure. And then we're just going to, again, be playing the fights in a pretty straightforward manner. You can see going for Sphere of Visage last here. And so, yeah, just kind of going here. I'm going to pop my 2nd ability soon, I think, and then just kind of see if we can find anyone to potentially pick off with our team, because that's always the goal. Again, playing around those picks, letting your team kind of make the engages. If you have any frontline, and if you have no frontline, shifting your build to be a bit tankier, especially on your 3rd, 4th, and 5th item being kind of tankier items. So you can be the engage, because that's perfectly fine too, especially when you fall behind, to become the engage yourself. We see the Rengar here, so we get an easy pick onto him. Again, that's a really nice thing. Anytime anyone makes a mistake, you can pretty much jump across the entire map, find an easy pick on them. Here I activate my 3rd ability before going in to terrify the Ziggs and then one-shot him because my champion is OP. Pretty absurd stuff. And then now we're just going to start pushing because we have the T-Rex. So that's another thing. Don't be too over aggressive though. Once you do get those picks or whatever, make sure you use those picks properly by pushing the waves out and making sure that you have things pushing to potentially find an inhib or anything. Like even here, I think I should have just continued going bot. Darius can get 5 stacks on the T-Rex, which I think is stupid, but this leads to him killing my teammate. And then you can see I'm not actually that scared to fight a 5-stack Darius, just because of how far ahead I am. And so I thought I can get a pick onto the Karma. Unfortunately, I got hooked right out of it, but we still almost killed the Darius as well. Almost able to get a double kill there, but just barely don't kill either of them. And that really, you can see, is the power of the build too, because I had an AP and an AD champion damaging me, but because I have steel caps and I have bramble vest for the armor, and then I have I was building Spirit of Visage, but I also have the Wit's End for the magic resistance. So you really have so much versatility with the different builds you can do. And then again, if you're into really heavy of one damage type, you can just go like, for example, Death Dance, Bramble Vest, Randuin's Omen, you know, with all the armor, steel caps, whatever, after Trinity. Or if the enemy are really AP focused, you can go for the Wit's End, the Spear Visage, you know, all these types of things. So it's just such good versatility here with the build, which is my favorite part about Warwick, is just how many things you can do. Like you can be so many different types of a champion, and you're always going to be strong early game, regardless of which build you go, which is really nice as well. And so, I mean, that's just one of the main reasons that he's so broken here. And then we're going to go in here, look for a potential pick, see if we can get anyone, and then watch what I do when I dive under this tower in a second. I think it's really funny. Maybe it's slightly later, but I dive under their nexus and just like, look how long I can live here. Like, this is absurd. The fact that my champion can do that much damage before dying because of the 3rd ability damage reduction, the healing and everything, pretty crazy. So we had a really nice Warwick carry here. There were times where this game was looking quite tough, but because we just play around those sides, and again, I started to kind of figure out how to actually win on Warwick more than just how to win lane on Warwick. And that's really the main thing that I wanted to show you guys as well. But yeah, Warwick, super broken champion. I might show you guys AP jungle Warwick later if I get a good game of that later. I haven't been playing much jungle Warwick because it's usually been banned when I've gotten jungle, unfortunately. But if you guys are interested in that, let me know. Let me know what you think of Warwick. And also, real quick, I also have memberships on my YouTube channel. It's $5 an hour, or $5 a month rather. For memberships, you get access to my coaching notes, you get access to videos early, and some other cool small perks. So if you're interested in that, that'd be awesome. And I also do coaching for $15 an hour. So if you're interested in that, just DM me on Discord, Talon1169, and I'll see you guys in the next video.